Stephen Roach, my dear friend, how are you?
Timmy, I've never been better, mate. The weather is starting to warm up and the footy also. How good is it going to be leading into the semi-finals?
Yeah, last round this weekend. Now, Brad Fittler has declared that Tom Trbojevic will be his first pick for Origin, despite the fullback only playing 60 minutes of footy since June. How much of an impact do you think he will have in the series? I know this is getting the Stephen Roach crystal ball out.
Yeah, I love Freddie's loyalty. I mean, that guy was near on our best player last season. So, he's sticking solid. I thought he tried a little bit too hard in his first game back for Manly. But, mate, when you have a look at all the medical people now in rugby league, they wouldn't let blokes back if they weren't ready. So, mate, I reckon he'll be ready. I reckon he'll be training himself hard. And, if he gets picked for New South Wales and Freddie sticks to his word and picks him, mate, he'll be one of our best again. Mate, you can't buy, players who are that good, and you can't leave them out because he'll produce something for him in the Origin series. So I'm with Freddie. I'd be picking him too.
They've got a larger squad, obviously, for all sorts of reasons, and, the Origin's being played at the end of the season. They're going to take a second hooker. You'd say that Damien Cook obviously is going to be number one pick, and he has found some form in the back end of the season. Is it Coruscant, who I know you have a huge rap on, Happy Coruscant, or do you go with Cameron McInnes with the Dragons who can play lock?
Yeah, I reckon you've got to, pay for someone who's been nearly the best player in the comp all year. Carousel. I said that he'd be the buy of the season. I reckon I'm not far off. If they make it through the semis and make it through to the grand final, you've got to look at how long McInnes and those guys would be off. If it was my selection, not that I've got anything to do with it, but Coruscant, I think, has won the right to deserve to be there with the season that he's had at Penrith.
Going to be interesting. Michael Morgan not there for Queensland. Fafita not there. They're copping a bit. Do you think there may be an SOS call to Cameron Smith? The other one, flipping it on its head, do they look at a guy like Harry Grant, Kerry Grant, as you call him?
Yeah, a lot of people, we wouldn't have seen this Harry Grant play if it wasn't for the swap that Melbourne did with the Tigers. He probably would have been still waiting to get a run down there in Melbourne. He might have got a couple of games or whatever, but he's been an outstanding player for the Tigers. You know what? He was leading the Daily M's only a few weeks ago. If I was Queensland and I couldn't get Cameron Smith out of retirement, I wouldn't hesitate to put that guy in the State of Origin arena, because you got to start somewhere. And, mate, that guy could turn out to be a 10-year Origin player. You don't know.
Oh, absolutely. What a little star he is. And some of the punching above his weight that he does in defence.
Yeah, no, he's unbelievable. And, Timmy, that's the first thing you look at too, how blokes, they can do all this razzle-dazzle stuff, but I always watch blokes when they come into grade, how good they are tackling front on, one-on-one. And, mate, he set some big names on their bums this year. I'm a huge fan. I'm so sad that he's going to go back down to Melbourne. But the other thing that I like about the kid is he's kept his word. He said to Melbourne, "Look, I'm going to go up to the Tigers for a year, but I'll definitely be back, and that's the deal, and I'm going to stick to it."
Yeah, he's got a future and a half, that kid. Now, okay, let's have a look at a couple of these games. South and the Roosters. Yeah, South, gosh, they looked poor last week. They had such a good run. It's a tough one. It's hard to think that they'll give too much of a challenge to the Roosters. They do hate each other. I know that.
Timmy, it's hard to imagine that only a couple of weeks ago that South put 50 on Manly, and then you see what they turned up last week. It just goes to show, mate, you got to be mentally ready week in and week out in the NRL. If you're a shandy off, you'll get dusted, and that's what happened. They underestimated their opposition last week. This is a tough game. They've got to try and get up mentally and try and beat the Roosters, because they're going to play them again come semi-final time if they want to make the big dance. So, it's a mental battle at the moment. Perfect timing for the Roosters, bringing Sonny Bill back. When I watched his first game, I thought, maybe he's going to struggle a bit. I watched his second game, he was 10 times better. And then last week, he was 30 times better. So it's all about timing. They'll only need him to play for 20 minutes come those big games, hanging around with him. I think they're going to be hard to beat, the Roosters. They're the benchmark now, I'd reckon, for every side. And, Souths have got to do something against them when they play them this weekend, or otherwise, they're just making up the numbers.
Oh, he's a combination of scientist and I don't know, what would you call him? Motivational speaker, Trent Robinson. I really like the way he operates and has operated for quite some time now.
Yeah, so clever. And mate, such an approachable bloke, and a bloke that you can talk to whenever you see him. He's one of those guys you'd think with all the stuff that's going on in his head that he might brush you, but he's always one of those guys that up for a chat, have a chat to you and talk to you. And mate, I admire him for that too.
Interesting, Luke Keary, his battle this week because Cody Walker has been there before and his name's being bandied about and he's had some good form. What do you make of this matchup and what do you like in the two of them?
Isn't it funny when you look at 258s like that and you mentioned, Cody had been there, mate, wonderful off the cuff player, Cody. I like it when he dominates the game for South Sydney for the 80 minutes. I love it when he's the main man where, Reynolds can just sit back and kick and all that sort of stuff. But I love it when Cody takes control. But the other bloke, can you believe that he's won all those premierships and hasn't played State of Origin yet? Every time he's on the verge of getting picked, he gets injured or something happens. So I think he deserves to be, if Tom Tavojevic is the first pick, I reckon he wouldn't be far behind him.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, isn't it? And what about Tupou, Big Dan Tupou? He's had a bit of injury, but just extraordinary. There wouldn't be a player in the air as good as him in the game. And I think that he's rocketed right into Origin contention above a few of the other names.
Yeah, he played Origin a few years ago. I think I've said this before. He's playing a lot better now. He's playing a lot better now than what he did when he played Origin. So, mate, he's a super player. Just gets on about his job, running the ball back at the back end of the field, not many better than him. And as you mentioned, looping for the footy. I like him and young Lomax for St George Illawarra. They kick for him too a lot in that St George Illawarra side. But, mate, he's playing some great footy at the moment. And, if you go on form, depending on what Freddie's doing, whether he goes on form or whether he goes on what they did last year, he should be somewhere around the side.
I'll tell you what, Penrith won't be taking Canterbury lightly. They were very good last week. And I want to isolate a couple of players. Josh Jackson, his 200th game. He wouldn't be out of place in that Blues jersey. He was outstanding last week.
Well, he's won the Brad Fittler Award before, the medal. So,
exactly.
We're blessed with so many blokes. That's probably been the problem for so many years, that we've got so many blokes to pick from. Yeah, Josh was unbelievable last week. I love the way that he's running the ball now too. He's always sort of like, a bloke to take the fourth ruck and all that sort of stuff. But now he's actually making some damage with his running game, and it's a great honour for a bloke who's been so good to the club at the Bulldogs. And he's the sort of captain. He's the sort of bloke that when you say who do you like running out with, he'd be one of those guys first mentioned, I reckon.
Oh, a couple of those try-saving tackles last week, he was just fantastic. And look, this young bloke, Averillo, he looks like an absolute out-and-out superstar of the future. And Trent Barrett has an opportunity to build a team around him, really. Yeah,
playing number 6 too lately, Averillo. I saw him make his debut. I loved it too. Is this the way to Averillo when he scored? Every day I keep hugging my pillow. Anyway,
he's got some ability, blocker.
Mate, he has. And, the big talk at the moment is that the Bulldogs are going to try and get Burton from the Penrith Panthers. So, the Panthers can't keep everyone. So that's a problem now. You have a great season and all of a sudden, you're in contention to playing grand finals and all that sort of stuff. If Penrith go on and win it, your team gets decimated because of your success. And that's what happens now. This bloke, I saw him play Burton in a game earlier on this year. I think it was against the Tigers. Mate, he played unbelievable. And looking at him at the ground and that, 6'2", he's a big bloke.
Massive, yeah.
Big ball runner. I reckon he would be the Dogs' number one priority. If you said to Trent Barrett, who's the first bloke you'd like to sign? I know they've already signed a couple, but who's the first bloke you'd like to sign? I reckon it'd be Burton. But, it's good for the game that, these guys are producing all these players, a lot of different clubs. But it's good to see him get a run in first grade. We were just talking about Harry Grant just a little while ago. We probably would have only seen him once or twice. We've seen this Burton once this season because there's no real reserve grade. And, he needs to go to a club where he can get a go. That's why I reckon a draft would be good, because the bottom sides get the first picks. But anyway, that's for another discussion for another day.
Oh, look, I think there's real merit for a draft. The greatest problem with the draft is that if someone wanted to challenge it in a court, there's a restraint of trade. So there's that challenge. But I'm with you. And Burton, he's a Dubbo boy, and you could almost see Avrilla going into 7, couldn't you? He's that type of player. He's already gone from. I know that he was a half to start with, but he's played out on the wing. He's the type of guy. Those two together, I mean. He could really start to build something, couldn't he? Yeah. And there is talk of Benji may even spend a year at the Dogs.
Yeah, it's a funny one, Benji. You know, like I know how much Badge Maguire loves Benji Marshall, but Benji's 35 now. Yeah. If the Tigers sign Benji for another 2 years, right? So that makes him 37, and he's still in exactly the same position that he's in now. So I can understand why he's letting him go. And I know Benji would be upset and dirty about it and all that sort of stuff. But, mate, think about it. He went to the Broncos and he went to Saints too. So he hasn't been a one-club player. So I know he'd be upset about moving on if he wants to play and he thinks he should finish his career at the Tigers. But I can understand why they're doing it. He's been, along with Robbie Farah, their best player the West Tigers have ever produced. So, you know, he can go out in knowing that's the the standing that he stood in with the Tigers.
Oh, absolutely. And look, he could probably fit a role at the Dogs, which would be good for a guy like Barrett. His brother plays there. So we'll watch that space with interest.
But Timmy, is it another quick fix, Buck? You know, the bloke's 35.
Well, if they bring him on a role for a year or so, it might just work for them because they're gonna leave a lot of experience, don't they? And that gets us to this next point with Aidan Tolman. Look, I think he's a fantastic guy. He's been a wonderful player, but in the cold light of day, you can see where guys like Trent Barrett are coming from. They've got to try and get themselves a football team that will take them forward. And sometimes there's going to be an attrition rate.
Yeah, and mate, if your decision is to go in another direction and you look at your list and you go, well, you know, this is where these guys have been finishing for the last 4 or 5 years, and Tolman's been your lead front rower. Well, mate, you're entitled to make a change. So I don't know whether. Well, the thing about the Tolman thing, like he's been a good player for the Doggies. He's been a steady player, but the real test now is he'll leave the Bulldogs, go on the open market if he still wants to play, right? And whether anyone still picks him up. That's the big test. So will a club say, you know what, we think he's still got something left, we'll pick him up? So that's the big test at the moment.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's it. That's where you know the supply and demand moment, don't you? Look, on the other end of the spectrum, a young guy that's just starting his career, but boy, he's just burst out of the blocks. Stephen Crichton, a breakout year. He's only 20. He's in the mix with Stags and Lomax and others for Origin already.
Yep. Mate, he's a superstar. I mean, I think we've mentioned it before. He reminds me so much of a young Israel Folau. And I even doubt, as good as Israel was and is, that in his first year that he had the sort of impact that this Stephen Crichton's had. You talk about blokes crossfield kicking for a bloke who can leap and all that sort of... Mate, he can do anything. I watch games now with the Panthers and think, wow, I haven't seen a talent like this for a long, long time. Someone who can do, 6 or 7 different things, and Stephen Crichton's one of those guys.
Yeah, and it gives Freddie a nice headache to have, to be honest, because Tony Staggs is playing very good in a beaten team, and he's shown some real strength and pace and explosiveness, and you've got Lomax plus a lot of the other names that are circulating around at the minute.
I'll give you one, Timmy. Yeah,
go.
Bradman Best. He hasn't played for ages.
Yeah,
People are raving on about it, mate. All these 20, 21, 22-year-olds, mate, they're superstars. Mate, there was a time, and it's funny how it floods in different stages of different positions. Like a few years ago, we couldn't find a centre. All of a sudden now we've got all these young kids coming through, and there's 10 of them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. What now Wade Graham, called him as a schoolboy, and he was a halfback then, but tackled like a back rower. He's a real, you can tell when some players are missing from football teams. When Wade Graham isn't in that Sharks team and he comes back this week, that'll really help him.
Yeah, he's playing number 6 too this week. I reckon that's a great move. He'll be outstanding. Obviously, no Sean Johnson for the Cronulla Sharks. Hey, what about that for a scenario? I know it's happened before, but they play the Raiders this week. They could play them in the first week of the semis a week later.
Yeah,
I mean, it happened with Parramatta and St George. Is that right? Was Parramatta and St George they played? Remember the week after they come back after Saints had flogged them, Jared Hayne had a day out. Remember that? He was untouchable. It's funny how things turn out, and you talk about bearings on what's going to happen down the track. I don't think this week whoever wins will have a bearing on whoever wins come semi-final time. It's a different ball game.
But if they're going to upset many apple carts, they need Wade Graham, don't they, Cronulla? They really do.
Yeah, tremendous player. Mate, he can do anything. And mate, you ever picking a New South Wales best ever 17? I reckon Wade Graham would be in there somewhere.
Yeah, he's a good player. Now, Ricky Stewart. Look, I love Rick. And I looked at him get upset the other day in his media conference, and I'm thinking to myself after 30 years in this game, and I'm watching what he's saying. I'm saying, why are you doing this for? Can't you just go and find 3 blokes, have a burger, and say to them, then go in there and say something else? It's like, but that's who he is, and he's full of passion.
Well, Timmy, you can't help answering the question. Honestly, poor old Rick. I mean, they obviously, try and roll him up and ask him questions, but he can't. That's what I love about him. He's passionate. Yeah. I love it that he's that careful of and carefree of his players and all that sort of stuff.
Because you know what he says? He goes on and says, Block, he goes, look, I know I'm not going to say anything because it'll get me into trouble. Then he says it.
Yeah. It's like, I don't want to hit you. But mate, there was some sort of story. I would love to know, and at last count, I think it was about 140,000 that Ricky's had to pay out in fines. Someone should sponsor him, I reckon.
Get you a long way on a ferry.
But what about when you're saying about Graham Annesley? Look. I'm sure he's a nice bloke in that, but
we are absolutely poles apart. Look, I'm not going to say stuff that'll get me into trouble. That was look. If it wasn't serious, it'd be a comedy. But that's interesting when we look at this week, isn't it? Because Jack Whiten's right there. He is bound to be one of the real, the ballast that the New South Wales State of Origin team is built around.
Yeah, love him, mate. He's a great player. If he don't play for Canberra, I would take away a big hope of them winning the comp. Look, they're my dark horses in the premiership. They're just sort of going under the radar at the moment. They got the best set of forwards. I wouldn't say they're the best forward pack, but when you have a look at what they got on the bench, I would say that they're the best balanced pack left in the comp. And then Jack Whiten on his day, we saw what he did in the grand final last year. So if they get there again, I reckon they're going to be hard to beat. Obviously the Roosters are the specials everyone's talking about now because of Keary, even Sonny Bill Williams. But, my dark horses are the Canberra Raiders.
Tell you what, Parramatta weren't convincing against the Broncos. The Broncos scared them a bit, didn't they, last week? What did you make of it all?
They just haven't played well for 8 weeks. They're the perfect example of a team that went off too early. Remember when they went on that run earlier in the season? They were beating everyone by 40 and they were killing it, and all of a sudden they had a little bit of a bump in the road. I found it very interesting, everyone coming out and supported Mitchell Moses yesterday too. Timmy, in this game, it's good to cop all the accolades and everyone's saying how good you are and all that sort of stuff. But when you're playing bad, and then, I just with Mitchell Moses, I love his passion. I love the way he plays when he's playing well. I don't like the way that he sprays his teammates. Even when he does something wrong, he sprays them. So, he's copping a little bit of flack at the moment. He'll get over that, over the hump. He's a good player, and I reckon he'll get a bit of form back.
This is where we see the acid test with coaching too, don't we, Block? Because you get good football teams, you get good sporting teams, but the teams that take it to the next level are often those with coaches that can bring the very, very best out in every single one of the squad. And when I say that, I mean Bennett, I mean Bellamy, I mean Robinson. So Brad Arthur's got a test here. Has he got a challenge? He's got the Tigers this weekend. Obviously, that's just the last game of the season. But then what comes next?
As you say, Timmy, it's something special, isn't it? I look back at our careers and, we lost 88 and 89. There are certain blokes and coaches and players, individual players, who can get you there on that big stage and actually win the grand final for you. So, when you talk about all those coaches, they are great at getting those guys up, but they've always got that one player that can get you home. Do you understand what I mean? And,
Absolutely.
We talk about the Roosters. I reckon it's a masterstroke that they've got Sonny Bill back. He'll only play 20 minutes, but he's getting better and better every week. And just to have that bloke around is a masterstroke from the coach to get him back and get him around all those young blokes and get them to believe,
Well, they've certainly got that inspiration. I know that he's not an out-and-out. You couldn't put Clint Gutherson next to Sonny Bill from what he's achieved in the game, but he's an inspirational leader at the back, and he's pulled them through a few times through this wobble area. They're still coming, in the top 4 of the premiership. What have you thought of his leadership?
Oh, he's unbelievable. I don't think he's a man of a lot of words. He's a doer. Every time I watch him, mate, I sort of marvel at all those fullbacks now, like Gutherson, Clockstead, those sort of guys. Even Tommy Tavojevic when he's playing.
Yeah.
Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, how they take runs next to the ruck. Like, mate, I've seen these guys doing 5 or 6 front rowers runs to get out of trouble, and mate, they're just. The ability, we talk about Gutherson, just the ability to want the ball. The good players want the ball, and mate, I would say that his game, if it's a 9 or 8 out of 10 every week, wouldn't flutter anything lower than that. Like, he's that sort of guy that wants the ball in his hand.
What about the Tigers, Block? It's been an underwhelming season. What can they get out of this final game?
Not much, mate. I reckon a lot of them be looking to the end of the season. It's funny, Timmy, because we haven't had any breaks because of the COVID, and it's been a real weird season this year. A lot of sides are looking very, very tired, and I reckon the Tigers are one of them. I reckon they'll be counting the seconds to the end of the season, and then hopefully, as we all do in the off season, we all live in hope. All us footy fans, we all live in hope that hopefully that it'll be our year this year. The Tigers will be, talking themselves up again and trying to go out in the market and buy some players. But, they've got to learn to dig deep, mate. That's the biggest problem. And defence, and that's one of the reasons, why they're letting Benji go and all that sort of stuff, because they want that defence mentality. As I've said before, like the Tigers are always happy winning 38-28. But, the coach doesn't want that. The coach wants to win grinding games of footy.
Well, just finally on that, and just a nod to Benji, who leaves the Tigers, and Chris Lawrence, who was a young kid that started in the centres, had his face rebuilt. They both leave. So they've both had remarkable careers.
Yeah, four tests for Chris Lawrence too. I don't think he ever played Origin, which was a shock to me. But he played for Australia, mate. Just a dedicated champion. Just turned up every week. I would imagine, I don't really know this for a fact, but I would imagine by watching him play that he would have prepared himself properly every week, and every training session he would have went as hard as he could. And on Benji Marshall, how many kids at Benji at his best would have been doing the Benji in the backyard? So that's the impact that he's had. Not only on the Tigers, but he's had that impact on rugby league. A lot of people would have been trying to do the Benji step and the Benji flick pass and all that sort of stuff. He's been a great, great player. But, mate, at the end of the day, everyone comes to that stage where you get a tap on the shoulder and someone, says, mate, your time's up here. And unfortunately, that's happened for Benji now, even though he still wants to play. But it's happened at the Tigers, which, I've said it before, that him and Robbie Farah were probably the best ever players for the West Tigers.
Yeah, from New Zealand to Keebra Park on the Gold Coast to the top of the world. It's been some sort of career, and wherever he ends up next, he's been entertaining for a long, long time. Stephen Roach, we have successfully gone behind blue eyes.
Good on you, Timmy.
He's noticed the pass. He's got it back to